If you're like me and you shot a lot of footage on the GoPro without any stabilization, you may be in for a treat, because this software I'm going to show you today is going to make your footage look like it was shot on a gimbal. So without further ado, let's go straight into the video. Okay, so the GoPro have been recording gyroscopic data into their cameras ever since the 5th generation GoPro Hero cameras. And they've been doing so all the way up to the newest generation GoPro Hero. And for those of you who don't know what gyroscopic data is, gyroscope basically is a sensor inside your camera which tells your camera how it's being moved while you're using it for filming. Data is being recorded into the video itself, so you can use a software in post to stabilize the footage. Okay, so you're probably thinking, what's the big deal? I can use a warp stabilizer in Premiere Pro or any other stabilizing software. The thing is, the gyroscopic data helps the software counteract every movement exactly the way you made it while you're recording the video. And that's a lot more efficient and it's a lot more effective than just using a warp stabilizer. So here is an example where I shot the video on the GoPro without any stabilization, before and after. And as you can see, it does a very good job at stabilizing your video. So as a bonus tip, the GoPro is not the only camera which records gyroscopic data into their videos. There's a lot of newly released Sony cameras which do that, like the Sony a7C, the a7S III, I believe the FX9 does that, the ZV-1 vlogging camera as well. Jumping back to the GoPro. So some of the GoPro cameras already have stabilization built into them, which is called hypesmooth. But on the Reelsteady website, in their advertisement video, they show two videos side by side. One which was shot using hypesmooth, and another one which didn't have any stabilization, which was stabilized in post using Reelsteady Go. Looks to be smoother. So at this moment, you're probably thinking, wow, this software is amazing. It can stabilize your footage after it's been shot. You don't have to worry about buying a gimbal, charging it and carrying it with you, because you can use this software afterwards. So I'm gonna give you guys a few tips how to make the most out of this software. First of all, you need to make sure you're shooting at the high shutter speed, because for example, if you look at this video, because I was shooting in a low light situation, the camera shows a low shutter speed, and even after it was stabilized, there is some motion blur in the video. So you need to make sure you always use a high shutter speed. In standard settings, the GoPro will choose the shutter speed by itself, but you can override this by going into the Pro Tune settings and choosing a high shutter speed. Having said that, it's not ideal that you use that kind of a high shutter speed in low light situations, especially that the GoPro doesn't do very well when it comes to noise in low light. Another thing that you need to consider is the fact that this software will introduce a crop to your videos. It's only slight, but it is there. In comparison to the hypersmooth, which is already standard on some of the newer released GoPro cameras, the hypersmooth does have a crop as well. However, while shooting in hypersmooth, you will still get the same resolution that you had your camera set to record in. Whereas if you use a Reelsteady Go, it will cut into your video a little bit while it crops, and you won't have the same resolution. It's only a slight crop, but it is there. So for those of you who are bothered by this, it's something worth knowing. Another thing you need to consider is the fact that you cannot use any stabilization prior to using this software. So if you use the in-body stabilization on your GoPro cameras, you cannot stabilize your video afterwards. So the GoPro Hero 5 does have stabilization built into it, and the only way you can disable it is by either shooting in 4K or by shooting at a frame rate which is higher than 60 frames per second. For example, I have this video which was shot in Spain, and because I wasn't using any of the mentioned settings, the camera enabled the in-body stabilization, and now unfortunately I cannot stabilize it anymore. So that's something worth considering. Never use in-body stabilization if you want to stabilize your video in post using this software. So now we're gonna go to the price of this software, which is $99, which in my opinion, I think it's a little bit overpriced. I do like this software. I think it's amazing. It does a great job. It almost works as a gimbal. Although it introduces a crop, which I'm not a big fan of, I do like this software. But like I said, I think it's a little bit overpriced. I wish it was a little bit cheaper. I got mine when it was reduced. I think it was about $60, which is in pound is about 50 pounds, which was not too bad. But if you think about it, gimbals nowadays are very cheap. You can use a gimbal instead, which will not introduce any crop. You don't have to worry about the shutter speed or using it in low light. But both of them have advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage of using a gimbal is the fact that you cannot mount a gimbal anywhere as you would if you use the GoPro without any gimbal at all. So you can mount the GoPro any way you want. You can have it on your chest mount, head mount, or you can mount it on your bicycle car, do diving with it, whatever. And if you use a gimbal, you may not be able to do that. But if you're just walking around doing vlogging with it, then I think a gimbal may be a good solution for you. But that's something for each and every one of you guys to decide. So like I said, there are other cameras which record gyroscopic data into their videos, like the new released Sony cameras, and I believe some Red cameras do that as well. But I have a very good tip for you guys, and you guys gonna love this. There is a product which is made in France, which is called SteadXp, and it's like a device which records gyroscopic data into itself, and the device will be mounted on the camera. And the good news is that that device can be mounted on any camera, so that means you can get this kind of stabilization on any DSLR or mirrorless camera. SteadXp also makes a version for the GoPro cameras, which you can use with older generation GoPro cameras. For example, if you own a GoPro Hero 4 or 3 or 2, I believe it works with all of them. I'm not entirely sure. That's something, again, you need to check on their website, but it's very nice that that option exists. So yeah, there you have it. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you guys learned something from this video, and if you did, please do hit the thumbs up button. It helps the channel, and if you want, you can share the video as well. And for more content like this, subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care now.